walk me through what you evolved in the beginning and then how you kept refining that.
Okay, so first it was churches and video games. And that's where the basic principles of these streamings came from. And so I'll play some video games sometimes, but I'm not a big streamer, so I didn't even really like see a lot of these Twitch streams and the Discord stuff going on before the pandemic. But so we were able to take a program called vMix, right, which is mainly, I think a lot of churches used it based on the tutorials that I had to watch in my personal time to learn how to do all these things. And then people who stream their own stuff for video games. So it was a lot of gear that I had to get. I had a laptop, I had an interface and the basics, but I had to I have an iPad, a PC, a Mac, and another Mac, and that's my setup. And I have an outboard mixer as well, which is a Behringer controller that we had to program to be able to link up to functions in vMix. And with that, I had to learn how to script things, which I didn't know how to do. So that's another IT kind of centric thing. So that's a good point. It's a lot of IT stuff that you would think is right. The cusp of the IT world that you have to learn in order to be able to do this stuff from home. And I think a lot of people didn't want the secret getting out that there was capabilities like this, that you didn't have to go into the $1 million studio, which you still do for the bigger shows. But right now, the groundwork's being laid out, and we're really starting to improve on a lot of the streaming stuff we're capable of doing from home.
I play a lot in the real tech, deep tech world, and there was conversations. Integrators talk about, we're going to IP, we're doing this, we're doing that. So I knew it was coming, but I knew it was coming in 10 years. Yeah. And I knew it would go piece by piece by piece. And by the time the operators had to get in, all this stuff would have been in micros. You would have never been scripting. As an A1, you would have never had to go down and start coding. And let me qualify what scripting means. That's down into the code. I mean, you're writing code to make shit happen. A1s, operators, directors, TDs, that's not your game. You don't have to do that. Mm-hmm. But you did. You had to learn that.
Well, yeah, I mean, there was a little bit of pre-scripted things, a very limited amount. And I was fortunate enough to find some of these things. But the way those come about is a team of guys who essentially only script are building these for the operators. So traditionally, as you said, you would be an operator. You would deal with, in the studio things like routing and, assigning different signals in different places, but you're not necessarily scripting the gear. But now I've learned how to assign functions on a more rudimentary level, which is really good because it gives me a deeper understanding of what I'm actually doing.
Yeah, that's invaluable, and it's hard for me to tell people how important understanding the derivative of the technology and the depth of technology, because you're never caught off guard. If you understand it at that level, they can throw anything at you, obviously, and you can adapt to it. But if you don't have that technical aptitude, it's hard to be, evaluate or had to grow as an operator, which you shined at. And I'm going to go back to, giving you the accolades and the props of going from being a recording engineer and coming up comparatively newbie. I mean, you stepped in not that long ago, and became a recording engineer and grew quickly, got a handle on that. And then when you went into television, it's the same, but it's very different. And you adapted to that rather quickly. So that tells me you have a you have a good aptitude for thinking things through. And I've worked with you enough times that I see you think. You stop and very methodically go, okay, wait a second. If this is that, then this should be that. So that means I have to find that. And you piece that together brilliantly. One of the other things that we all overlook pretty quickly is comms. So you talked about, bringing the game together, bringing the show together remotely, but you also have to have comms. You have to talk to everybody in everybody else's kitchen.
Right.
So talk a little bit about how that got pulled in.
Well, the comms thing is interesting. I've used a few different types of comms. So I did some work with EA Sports. We did a FIFA tournament. I came and kind of filled in there, and we would use Discord a lot. In some of the private shows we did, we use Unity Intercom, which is my favorite to use right now because their support's great. Which is, I can't stress enough that support from the developers is such a huge part of this, because we're only as good as we are until we're not. And when we're
Great quote. Hold on.
Well, I mean that's some Joe stuff too, because I can hear you saying that, but it's the truth.
Now.
But it's the truth. When you have a problem that, you got 3 or 4 guys who are all doing this and all have their heads in if-then kind of thought processes, and you get stumped, you need help from the developers, because it's a lot of times it'll be a bug on their end. And we worked with Grass Valley a lot too, and the Grass Valley guys were extremely diligent about taking notes, being available, because you could see them continuing to develop their product as it went along. But as for comms, sorry for my long-winded answer here.
No, keep going.
So for comms, Unity Intercom has been the most popular way for us to do it, and that gives us the ability to just sit here and program comms just like it would be in an RTS. We can inject feeds in and monitor program in low latency off of Unity, and that's actually better in a lot of cases than having direct conversations through whatever platform we're using, just because of the delay times. And I think that people rely on the comms heavily because people need to talk to each other, and that's a given. But yeah. I mean, when your comms goes out, that's one of the worst moments that you can have. And
there is. I don't think there is any worse.
No.
Other than if you're directing and your multi-viewer goes out.
Yeah. So
if you can't hear each other and don't know what's going on, I mean, and for those of you who are listening, who are watching, who don't really know the nuances of a control room, I liken it to Transformers. We're all these individual pieces, and then all of a sudden, when it comes time to do the show, we all come together and build this other super thing. If they all don't work together, the audio guy, the technical guy, the director, the lighting guy, all these things have to piece together and function like a front line in football. I mean, there's so many analogies that a band on stage, if you're not functioning.
I like the Transformers analogy, because if Optimus Prime is a truck and Optimus Prime needs to transform into his humanoid form to fight, you don't see him staying having a truck head, because that's not going to do him too good. So if one piece doesn't transform with Optimus, it's not going to work out too well. But that's it. So we'll have, I'll do some work with CBS. We use RTS, and I use it off my iPad. And there's been a lot of dropouts on RTS, and you'll see someone's name there lit up to show that they're on, and then one next second they're off, and you're trying to roll a video, and the EVS operator is not on comms to know that. So it screws the show a little bit, when that happens. If you are thinking about pursuing this type of venture, especially in audio, the first and most important thing is to stay involved. Before you even know anybody, before I met Joe, I was still doing a lot of things. Well, I wasn't getting paid for many of them, but I was doing a lot. And, I had to make sacrifices when I was younger, where I was, traveling around the country and sleeping on the floor every night and, on tour with people, which was cool, but also really sucked. And so if it feels like it really sucks, that might mean that you're doing the right thing. But everybody's got to put their time into it so that you come out a little harder, you come out more knowledgeable, and you come out more willing and ready to work, because you felt what it's like to have a not so great circumstance in your work. And then it's knowing people and just being open to talk to people, being available, and if somebody emails you, get back to it quickly, just simple things like that. Don't be afraid to reach out and call somebody. If you don't know something, you got to admit that you don't know it so that you can learn it in the future. And it's generally just that type of attitude towards it, and putting yourself in the right positions and knowing the right people. And as Faro City was built to be a community, that is the most important part to me, is being involved in the community and knowing people.